Perth Glory knock off Auckland FC before being humbled by the Wanderers. The cavalry is on its way. Just how significant will a transfer window be for the Glory? And a fairy tale return to the Perth Glory women, Caitlin Douglas. Welcome to the only podcast that receives more abuse than Ange Postecoglou at an FA Cup fixture. This is the Far Post Perth podcast presented by ID Athletic. Now's the time to book your orders for 2025. Visit 84 House Street in Osborne Park or visit idathletic.com. Also, big thank you to Dino Djurbic and the team at Trio Homes. If you're looking to build, redesign or renovate, visit triohomes.com.au. Blaine Treadgold is my name, here for another episode of the Far Post Perth podcast. With me this evening or wherever you are listening, Neil Sherwin. Welcome back, mate.
Thanks for having me again, as always.
Yeah, very, very good. How's Tricks away from the football?
Busy at the moment. Spent a lot of time with Jackson actually those last few days.
Oh.
We've been hanging out at HBF Park, but it's been good. Yeah,
Football friends.
Football friends. It's been good. It's been good though. Plenty of games. Three home games in the space in 12 days.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been enjoyable. Nice break from the newborn as well. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah. Oh well, it's as long as your missus isn't listening, mate.
She always listens. That's the problem.
Mate, I understand that local football training's back, mate. So it's just going to be just water and celery and running laps for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, we had a little chat last night at the game. Matt Comito was there doing some Football Australia stuff. Ben Smith was there from the West, and we all realised that we'll potentially button heads in the Amateur Premier League this coming season. So yeah, they'll get a bit more coverage than the NPL if we're all running around in the same competition. So no, that's all started back now. It's good to be back. I say that now because it's the best any of us are going to feel all season is right now. Yep. As the weeks tick on, the bodies will get sore, but it is good to be back kicking a ball around again.
No, absolutely. Very much looking forward to the winter season. Jackson Bassett's with us. Welcome back, mate.
Good to be here.
Yeah, no, good stuff. And what's been happening in your life, mate? We haven't seen you for a couple of weeks.
Just been chilling over the Christmas and New Year period. Have been hanging out with Neil at the Glory Games.
Yep.
Just following his lead and getting a behind-the-scenes look. Careful. The media side. But it's been good. It's been really enjoyable.
Yeah, no, good stuff. Gents, let's get into it the way that we only know how, and that is the good, the bad, and the ugly. Big thank you to everyone who sent some responses through on social media. We'll get to them very, very shortly. Jackson, kick us off, mate. What's been good over the last, let's say week or couple of weeks or however you want to frame it?
Well, I'm torn between two, so can I give you both options and then you can pick?
Go ahead.
Caitlin Douglas was one for me. You mentioned her off the top. Signed as an injury replacement on Friday, starts and scores in her 50th appearance. Doesn't get much better than that. Then my other one, a bit left field. I don't know if you've seen the Sol Campbell's latest advertisement.
Did see it?
Yes, an excellent bit of shithousery.
Just take us through this because I haven't seen it and I'm not sure if the listeners have.
So he's advertising a new Google Pixel phone.
Yep.
And the whole ad is just centered around making the big switch. And there's a whole lot of puns there. He switched it over from a white sweater to a red one, and all about making the right moves. And it was an excellent bit of advertising,
genius, isn't it?
Yeah, very clever. I enjoyed it. Spurs fans might not, but good bit of work there from Sol Campbell.
No, very good, mate. Neil, what's been good?
Just something that they did at the game last night was, and it actually really made a big difference from a brand perspective. We know the Glory brand is tarnished and it's not been great over the last few years, but they were doing custom printing shirts at the games last night for the first time that I can probably remember.
Well, we were asked about this on Twitter, weren't we?
Yeah.
Is it Non-League Dad that follows us on Twitter? Big shout out to
so
that
the
gentleman.
customization and the queues for it before the game and during the first half were huge. People getting, now look, I'm not a fan of people getting Bazza 69 on the back of shirts, but there was kids getting their own names, and there was a lot of Taggart and Risdon shirts being sold. And as the game, you're walking around later on in the game, there was just people walking around with printed shirts on, and it was $35 a go, but something like that is just going to encourage people to wear their shirts more. And they've also got a new range of merch. They've got a lot of Glory Gorilla t-shirts now, which are actually pretty cool. And the controversial bucket hat. The controversial bucket hat that has divided opinion across the socials today.
I've got to admit, I absolutely lost my shit when I heard someone goes on Twitter, I thought it was a cake.
Yeah, and I wasn't a fan.
I think that might have been Alex on Twitter.
We had the kit discussion around the lilac shirt and what it looks like, and I wasn't really sold on it. But I love the bucket hat. I'm thinking of getting one for going to Oasis. I'd be a right geezer with my Glory lilac bucket hat.
Yeah.
But stuff like
With
that
your
is just
pretty green T-shirt and everything else.
Why not? I think it's cool though that they're doing a bit more merch, get people wearing Glory gear, Glory colours, make it a little bit cooler because there isn't really much of it out there. It's been kits and shirts and that, and maybe the odd hat. There hasn't really been much.
A couple of the supporters groups have done a little bit.
Doing their own
there.
thing. Yeah, their own thing, which is fine. But I think the club, to grow the brand and try, obviously a few wins have been helpful as well. But yeah, I think that was pretty noticeable last night, that there was quite a broader range than what you'd see before. And I think people, to your point earlier about someone coming over and visiting, it's like, can I get a shirt at the ground? Can I get it printed? These are just basic things that happen everywhere else in the world. And yeah, maybe lifting the game a little bit. So I thought it was pretty good.
No, outstanding stuff. And it's exactly these little things that make up the whole kind of experience and everything else. My goods is, and we spoke about this just a little bit before we went on air, and that was around just a little bit more kind of transfer talk around the league at the moment. We know that the domestic transfer system is starting to be implemented. There just seems to be a little bit more buzz about it, whether it be at Perth, whether it be across the league. It's something that I feel has been missing in the A-League for a long time. It's just that chat away from football, who's going to go where. You see it in AFL and stuff like that with the trade kind of radio, and they have a big buzz about it, probably a bit too much if you ask me. But I think it's an element that's been added and probably pretty welcomed.
Yeah, we all like everyone likes the rumor mill.
Yep.
You know, that everybody enjoys that, and it's nice, especially when you're towards the bottom. It maybe gives you some false hope that these signings are going to come in and turn your season around. But yeah, I do think it's an opportunity with the window. We were talking about it last night, and there's only the window swings open and then it slams shut. There's no in between. Yep. So it's in the process of swinging open over the next 24 hours, and we get a couple of weeks of moves. And yeah, from a Glory perspective, it sounds like they're going to be very busy. From tomorrow being Thursday, if you're listening, whatever day you're listening to, we can expect the first names, and it's no secret from if you were walking around the ground last night, it's pretty obvious who's coming in.
Yeah.
But that's going to be good to have, in the reinforcements, and then the knock-on effect, right? It's a domino effect. You sign somebody, then there's a hole somewhere else that needs to be filled, and so forth. And yeah, it's an opportunity to replenish and strengthen, and maybe, as I said, give you that little bit of hope for the second half of the season.
And the added part to that is one of the big jokes of the A-League, Jackson, has been the old mutual termination window, that, you know, the fact that contracts can just be rendered null and void at the click of a fingers. It doesn't hold the player in good stead. It doesn't hold clubs in good stead, and it doesn't hold the kind of look of the league in good stead.
Yeah, it's not great, but I will counter that and say I was having a look through all the transfers that have been announced so far before the window has opened, and there still has been quite a few mutual terminations, even outside of the Glory as well. So hopefully this domestic transfer system keeps being successful, but we're still getting a few of those mutual terminations, which... and
I think they'll happen for a little while, but there will be, I think, probably a time where a line in the sand is drawn and, hold on a second, you want Lachie Wales, you have to pay money for Lachie Wales.
Yeah.
In whatever that looks like.
Hopefully we get to that point where there's less of that.
We'll go through the transfers a little bit more in depth in a quick second. Jackson, carry on. What was bad, mate, over the last week or so?
Not a great weekend for Wellington or ex-Wellington goalkeepers, because Josh Oluwayemi on the weekend made the mistake which cost them the win against Adelaide, and then was dropped for today's game against Sydney. And then Ollie Sale last night didn't have his best day out, which I am very surprised, considering how well he played on Saturday, that there was such a big difference between a performance from one game to the other in the space of 3 days. Because on Saturday, he looked confident, and I was not worried at all. Yesterday, anytime he got near the ball, I think everyone in the crowd was just holding their breath and just hoping it wouldn't go wrong. So,
well, it started off very sketchy, that game. We'll go into it a little bit deeper, but then, of course, that calamity, the goal kick, and then I think the bigger calamity from that was the fact that he came rushing out. I feel that, at least from where we were looking at it up in the commentary box, myself and Tommy Dolman, if Ollie Sale had a start in his line, I think the defender would have just kind of ushered Sapsford wide, and it would have been a little bit of a nothing shot. But no, Ollie Sale came out and he was rounded easily, and the rest, as they say, is history. Neil, what was bad, mate?
Yeah, no, the Ollie Sale fan club went home a bit sheepishly last night.
Say, you're the president, aren't you?
And sole member at this stage. There wasn't many sticking around for a beer afterwards last night. But my bad is how we don't embrace midweek football here. I had my little rant last week about people who go to the likes of the Scorchers and they can pack out and get like 40-odd thousand at up the stadium for tip and run nonsense. But midweek football here seems to be a hard sell, not just in Perth, but in the A-League as a whole. I love it. And point back to the UK and Ireland and that, where there's games thick and fast. You play Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday, whatever it may be. And, there's this no excuses. They play at 7:45, 8 o'clock over there in the depths of winter. And we complain about a 6:45 kickoff in summer.
Yeah.
It's just it's a different culture. And I know some people will be sending me messages now, so if you don't like it, leave and all of that. And this is Australia. And I'm like, it's fine. But I just wish, and I don't think we'll ever get to the point where you're having it every week because of the travel involved, right? So it's a different beast than hopping on a bus for an hour and going down the road. But having a midweek game every month, for example, I mean, I've loved the last week or so because we were starved of home games pre-Christmas. And then we had 3 in quick succession, and being able to, yes, it was a lot easier to go last night after they'd won at the weekend, and maybe if they'd been hammered 5-0, it would have been more of a slog. But the idea of going Saturday, Tuesday, to me, every so often is brilliant. But we just don't. And the crowd wasn't too bad last night, just over 5,000 and whatnot. But I feel that, as a league as a whole, it'd be great if we embraced it. If, for example, one week there was a game in Sydney, the next week there was one in Melbourne, then Adelaide, then Perth, then New Zealand, and you just had it on a rotating where we had games. Because I sat down and watched Wellington and Sydney today because it was on, and it's great. But so the bad for me is just not embracing that side of it. We have school holidays at the moment, which is cool, but even across the rest of the year, we got the perfect, like last night's weather, and it was picturesque, and it was
beautiful,
cracking night for football. So more of that for me would be great, but I just don't think we'll ever get to it. So it was a taster of what I'd like, but I just don't see it happening on the regular.
You mentioned there the European kind of culture, but I'm just going to bring it back to comparing apples with apples. You're right in when you suggest that midweek in other codes works. So what is it about football that doesn't? But you look at the Asian Champions League. We don't even get crowds for that,
no.
and that's. But you can get the Wildcats play midweek. You can get the Scorchers play midweek.
West Coast play Thursday night.
You can get Thursday night, Monday night.
Yeah. So,
but for whatever reason, football fans don't like getting out.
It's too late for the kids, and look, maybe it's a cultural thing with Western Australia. We don't have daylight saving, so it's your curtains don't fade. But people get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go for a run. You don't need to do that. Go for your run later and go watch football the night before. But 6:45 is a late kickoff because people want to go to bed early and get up and start their day early. To me, it's maybe a lifestyle thing as well.
But some of the same people will stay up till 3 a.m. in the morning and get up for a Champions League.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't. It's probably up to the individual. Football's football. I just love
this time of year when you have the opportunity to go to 3 games in less than 2 weeks, and across the Christmas period, and there's so much of it on TV. It's a saturation of football, and can't get enough of it.
My bad is just the silence around the National Second Division. I'm a huge advocate for bringing this in. I'm a huge advocate for grading club pathways and also, I guess, eventually promotion and relegation, which is a hill I've said that I'll die on many, many a time. But we haven't heard anything. I wouldn't know what's going on as far as this National Second Division. The last we heard is that it's going to be a Champions League format. We're still looking for more teams, and it's been radio silence ever since, Jackson.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what's going on with it, to be honest. I mean, like I said, we haven't had an update in a while, so maybe they're just not organised. Maybe they're still getting things done behind the scenes, but it's hard. It's hard to know really what the plan is long term for. We just know that it's going to be that Champions League format initially. Then I would like to know what the 5 or 10 year plan is beyond that, because that's what's really important.
I'm just going to give you silence on it.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Nah, there's nothing really happening. But that's been the case for years now, right? It's an idea that was floated. They came out with some sort of ideas. They came out with the application process. We know that no one from WA is going to be involved for the long term. So is it really relevant to us?
Well, they
moment?
will be, because
Probably
it'll
not.
be the champions of each confederation.
What's that ever going to do for promotion or relegation?
Well, I guess it's a step as far as
I've
getting
been hearing
in
about steps for 10
Well,
years
this
now,
is
so-
true, and this is one of my biggest things, whether it be at club level, whether it be at national level, is
I think that
keep people in the know. Let's sell this. What are the possibilities where this game can go?
I think they just need to bite the bullet and run a league for a year or two, and if it falls over, then it fails. Like
Yep.
you just got to do. How long are we going to talk about? Because the more you talk about it and nothing happens, the people are going to be like, I'm disengaged from it. I was really interested in it and following the updates and reading through the criteria and everything else. I couldn't give a shit now. Just either do it or don't.
Yeah.
I obviously want it to happen, and I'd love if there was promotion and relegation. But again, we had a bit of a conversation last night at the game around what that might look like in terms of relative. And I know people hate when to compare it to MLS, but conference-wise, if you were to do a second division in Australia, it's very hard because you can't do straight East and West. There's nobody on the West. Whereas in America, you can have that conference system and you can split the leagues out. MLS is a beast now at the moment. Other countries have done that as well. We just might not be in a position to ever do it. So what does that look like? You know, do we get a top tier and do we focus on getting 16 top tier teams with no promotion relegation? But then what do the bottom 6 or 7 play for halfway through the season? So, yeah, I would like it to be a case where there is a consequence for a team being shit year on year, because the league suffers badly from that, I feel, because teams can ride off. You look at Brisbane at the moment; they're just plodding along with Zadkovic, and we'll just see how it goes, and we back him, but because it's the easy update. What's going to happen if they keep losing games?
Yeah, no, 100% right. The way that I kind of envision is something similar to Italy. You've got your regional, you've got your state, I guess, if you like, and then you've got your national. So that's the way that Italy works. Like, that's something that I think
the big problem though that goes against it is this mindset, and I don't agree with it, that we can't not have a Perth team in the top tier.
No,
you know,
that's rubbish.
That's like, well, if Adelaide United got relegated,
Yorkshire's the biggest county in England, and for years it never had a Premier League team.
Yeah, and I think that's
football didn't die in England. I know it's different culture and everything else, and it's deeply ingrained, but I think it's rubbish.
Well, that's where your club lives and dies by its supporters, right? If you do get relegated back to a regional league, you support to the point of getting back up again. Now, there are other issues that if Brisbane Roar, for example, got relegated to a state league and they were only able to play out of Suncorp, well, what the hell? How are they going to afford that? So there are things that need to be sorted out at that lower level if they were to go down that way. But the idea of if Perth Glory got relegated, no one would care about the A-League in Western Australia, well, then Glory should just be better and be in the top flight. So that's just the way it will work for me. So, yeah, I don't see anything happen in the near future, but I wish it would.
Yep, no, 100%. Jackson Uglies, mate, what's going on?
I'm going to head over to England for this one.
Okay.
We had the FA Cup third round on the weekend, and the scrapping of the replays. I am not a fan of this at all. The magic of the cup is a massive thing, and this all stems from Tamworth versus Spurs, where Tamworth held them to a 0-0 draw in 90 minutes. Every other year, there would be a replay at the Tottenham Stadium. Tamworth gets a nice big, they get a nice little bonus from that, which is massive for them. It really helps out the smaller clubs. So no replays. It goes to 120 minutes, and Spurs win 3-0. I just don't get it. It's very disappointing. It's disappointing for those smaller clubs, because I feel like the whole point of the FA Cup is it's a bit more promotion and advertisement for these smaller teams, and you get these, like, you get Sutton United from a few years ago, or Coventry last year, these unexpected teams making these awesome runs. It's so much harder to do that when you get rid of the replay system and you deny these clubs opportunities to gain a little bit of extra money from the cup, which is a big revenue source for them. So. Yep. Yeah, not a fan of that at all.
No, 100%. And you feel that it's the big clubs that have just some pressure on the EFL, Neil.
Yeah, look, part of it's the scrapping of the replays.
It's not your mob, is it, Man City? Probably is.
We've got enough problems. We don't need extra games. We need less games at the moment. But the part of the scrapping was for the likes of Spurs and Newcastle to come to Australia 3 days after the season last year. You know, they got less games. They can have a little jolly at the end, and there's more money for them in. But this is nothing new, because 1999 Man United skipped the FA Cup to go and play the World Club Cup or whatever it was called at that time. But just on the Tamworth thing, Tamworth got into the third round by winning in extra time and penalties against a team above them in the football pyramid. They beat was it Burton? So if that had gone to a replay, would they have being able to give a second big performance against a team way higher ranked than them in the league. So they arguably benefited from no replays in the round. I do take the point, though, about the money spinner, because they do lose out on a lot of revenue. I did see something mentioned where there was floated that a club could choose that if you were drawn at home to Liverpool, you could say, no, we'll play it at Anfield. Because the revenue. So if it is going to be a once-off, the home team can decide to keep home advantage or switch it to an away game. Look, we're probably going to get dicked anyway, so let's just go and make some money out of it. So maybe I don't know how that would work.
So I really like with the Australia Cup how that is tweaked towards playing the home fixtures at the lower league kind of ground.
I don't, because it's a draw. You get drawn where you get drawn. I don't like unbalanced draws. You're either in a draw or you're not. So I wouldn't be keen on that. But
initially that is drawn.
Yeah, it is.
And then
drawn,
the later stages.
Yeah.
And I guess the explanation.
I don't like weighted draws.
No, and the explanation for having those bracketed draws was so smaller clubs can actually plan this, especially when you've got guys that are plumbers during the day and they've got to take 5 days off or 4 days off to do this. So.
But that's where the magic of the cup comes in, that you have all these things against you. You were drawn against the top team and you beat them, not the weighted draw just takes a little bit of that away from me.
It does, yeah. I very much can see both sides of it. What are we up to? Are you going with your ugly?
My ugly? Look, I'll just go back to Glory. Just had the ability to shoot themselves in the foot. I think they have shown some good signs, and I really thought, we'll talk about the game afterwards, but I thought that 15-minute period after half-time yesterday, they were going to go win the game. They scored the goal, looked fantastic, playing good football, had Western Sydney on the back foot, and then a complete mess up, gifts a goal. So that was the second goal of the game. We point to Western United switching off the back post, goals in that game. They just have a real ability to kill themselves. Coach killers, right? And David Zrilic has rightly gotten criticism across the last few months, but he is not being helped by some absolute idiocy from his players. And I know he picks the team. I get that. But there's some of these mistakes you can't allow for. Like you can't expect them to happen. And the two last night were clear examples of that. 4 minutes into the game, and one defender kicks the ball into another, and it goes in the top corner. Like, what are you meant to do about that? Yeah. But these are just Glory things this season. Right? Glory find a way to put themselves behind or to get into a good position and then screw it up. If they could cut that out, they'd probably have a lot more points on the board, irrespective of whether they were a good or bad team. Just cutting out this nonsense, they'd probably be in a little bit of a better position. So yeah, there just seems to be an ugly in every game that kills them.
I was you've actually stolen my thunder there, because that was my ugly. Was just the mistakes, and I've got to admit, I do feel a little bit for Adriano Labib, who was credited with that own goal last night. Of course, he was the last man to touch that, and I don't think obviously Marcella's kind of Tommy Marcella's put it straight into him, but as far as that second one goes, that was pretty soft. Let's take a bit of a break.
We got to go to the socials.
Oh, let's go to the socials. Yeah, I'm cutting people off.
People care. All right, some goods: beating Auckland, bad losing to Wanderers, ugly next week's trip to a suburban desert in the women's. Bad second bottom, good is Brisbane. Keeping us off the bottom. What else have we got? A bit of a personal one here. I'll have a word on this one. Good, another clean sheet for Maynard Brewer at Charlton. Yep, so he's doing very well. Bad Glory.
Are they League One?
I think.
They're still down.
Ashley Maynard Brewer, yeah. This is from Matt Kelland. Matt, you can stay in the UK for as long as you like after this. Ugly, the boots that I bought recently. I bought a pair of Puma Kings lately, and I've been getting a lot of shit for them. So,
what, the old black ones?
That's the old.
No, but the original.
Yeah, Puma King.
What's wrong with that?
Well, yeah.
You're a no-nonsense defender these days, Neil. You're not going to...
I can't be wearing white boots.
You're not flashy out with your...
As long as they're not like bright yellow or pink or something like
that.
There's no with the white tongue. They're the proper...
There's no step-overs in the Sherwin household. Let me just put it that way.
There is definitely not. There's a punt 50 yards down the pitch and get it away from me. All right, some goods as well. Great first up performance by Will Freeney. Yes, I enjoyed him. We'll talk a bit more about that in the game wrap up. Bad the sprinklers. I thought that was good. The ugly, both Western Sydney Wanderers. Goals so easily avoidable. We looked the better side. good. Taggart amongst the goal scorers, bad own goal and Sales keeping the entire game. Ugly Venues West and the Sprinklers. Good performance levels, didn't drop too much despite the short gap from the weekend, and playing the same team. There's a lot, pretty much the same team, one change. Bad, the debate on whether Sale is a good keeper or not. How long is it going to take, and what will it cost us? Ugly, it's taken this long to get a team performance we can stand behind, and now we have 5 or 6 players to come into the mix and change it up. And that is interesting because David's really just talked about depth. But if these 5 or 6 players come in and they're thrust into the lineup just as we start to get a settled team, does it then take us a step or two backwards? That would be my thing, because these guys that are coming in look like starting players.
Yep.
Good, Tags and Pearman. Bad, the own goal. The umpiring, we don't say umpiring, we say refereeing. Come on. So far behind the times, we need to bring in the captain's challenge. Sprinklers, bad. And then Taggart with the goal, Sprinklers. And here's one here. We talked, because I did speak last week about people choosing other sports over Glory.
I've seen this.
Very, very controversial. This is a huge one. Dave Winkless. Dave Winkless is a very prestigious member of the Glory
very,
cohort.
Very passionate
He's
Glory man.
He's been around for a while. Well, Dave Winkless didn't go to the game last night because he was not only otherwise engaged, but he was cheating on the Glory and on football with Fox Footy and the Dockers. A moment's pause.
It is
the process.
Someone have a word.
There should be severe consequences for that, I think.
He should be buying around next time they're all at the shoe.
Maybe he should be made stand in the middle of the bay for the next home game.
Ooh, controversial.
The kids, put him in there.
The creche.
Yeah, he can be in there front and center as his punishment, not allowed stand in with the drinkers in the shed. So yeah, that's pretty shocking. That's our contributions.
There we go. All right, we'll delve a bit deeper after the break. You're on the Far Post Perth podcast.
Tired of the same old cookie cutter home designs? Dreaming of a space that truly reflects you? Then it's time to talk to the team at Trio Homes. Whether you're looking to build your dream home, redesign your current space, or simply renovate, Trio Homes is committed to unique designs, local personalised service and quality workmanship. And with former Perth Glory star Dino Julbich at the helm, you'll know you're getting passion and dedication built into every project. Discover the difference with Trio Homes. Visit triohomes.com.au.
What a run! This could be the one! It's in! That's what it's all about! And when it comes to sports gear that helps you perform your best, ID Athletic has the winning formula. From grassroots clubs to elite athletes, ID Athletic provides high-quality sporting apparel, screen printing, embroidery, and made-to-order promotional products. Proud sponsors of the Far Post Perth and passionate supporters of WA community sport. Visit ID Athletic at 84 Howe Street, Osborne Park, or online at idathletic.com. ID Athletic. Build your identity.
Welcome back to the Far Post Perth podcast. Blaine Treadgold, Jackson Bassett, and Neil Sherwin. Big thank you to ID Athletic and Trio Homes. Football's come thick and fast, gents. There's been a stack to, review, talk about. I don't want to go too far back, but let's have a bit of a look at that game against Auckland. Superb performance. We've been pretty critical in some of the performances, Jackson. Probably time that we lay a bit of praise on that one.
Oh, yeah. Very impressive from everyone. Every single player on the pitch put in a good shift and had a good game. Sale in goal on Saturday at least. Very strong. Made a few crucial saves. Josh Risdon was really good as well. I think we were mentioning.
Yeah, I thought that was his best game.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, very very good. But I think we were discussing this while we were watching. Is that he's not had to bomb forward as much. You know, he's not got the legs to be just going up and down constantly anymore. So I think when he can pick and choose his moments to go forward and save some energy in defence, because he was against I think it was Gillian, who's a very pacey winger for Auckland. So he's able to just hold back a little bit going forward and was managed to keep him quiet on the other end. But yeah, he's still been very good on the attack. Got the assist on last night for Taggart. And a bit of a merchant of kind of they've found their niche. They've been pretty solid as a pairing. So I think that will hopefully continue. And and obviously Pearman. The goal was incredible.
The Prince
The Prince of Perth, the new Prince. Yeah, move over Harley Reid.
I think we've coined that one, haven't we?
We're trademarking that.
Absolutely.
The whole system as well, in terms of the pressing and the ball movement, it was just so much different from anything else we've seen this season as well. It was brilliant to watch. It just seemed like in the past there's been a little bit of hesitancy, and when one person goes, there's not been as much bouncing off each other. Neil's alluded to that point quite a bit, but there was a lot of bouncing off each other, and there seemed to be a real understanding between the players about you pass here and then you move there.
The cohesion, that pass and move, yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. And again, defensively, we were maybe a bit fortunate not to concede, but the players actually showed a lot of resolve, were throwing themselves in for challenges, and it looked like they really wanted it. And I think there's been times this season where I've criticised the effort and that lack of determination, but it was definitely on show on Saturday, and they got the reward for it, which was good to see.
Yep. Neil, what impressed you in that Auckland win?
The desperate defending, definitely. I said previously that if Glory were to lose every game by a single goal, but they gave a shit and really battled hard, I'd be fine with it. It's this not being competitive, losing 5-6-0. I know the bar is low, and people say, well, they're still lost X amount of games and 4 in the last 5 games. Yes, we get it. They're still not a great team, but there are signs there, and if we can see improvements on that, then yeah, it might be passable by the end of the season. I did enjoy Pennington's performance because I think he is the standout player across all the games he's been in. From now that we've got a good sample size, he's a great signing, great player, and they probably lost a bit last night when he went off injured early. So really good player. Did eat a bit of humble pie because having been really tired, a self-proclaimed tired against Western United, non-existent in the second half against Sydney FC. I was shocked that David Zrilic thought that naming the same team a few days later was the right move. But somehow they had the energy levels to put in a 90-minute performance. So credit where it's due for that. I really didn't see it happening just because of the travel involved, the fact that Auckland were well rested. Very disappointed with Auckland. They did have some chances, but they never really got in behind Glory. Labib's pace, he was able to handle anything that went over the top. They were devoid of ideas for probably 60 minutes. So yeah, for a team that was up the top and a team that I've rated as the seasons progressed, they didn't really offer too much. I did really like the guy chopping down Labib when he made the run. And I know people, it's disgraceful, it's cheating. Well, look, if Labib scores, it's 2-0 and there's still probably 6 or 7 minutes to play. He took one for the team, and I rated it because Labib's pace at that time of the game, dribbling the ball, was unreal.
Yeah.
There was no sign of slowing down. You weren't definitely not going to win the ball.
For a centre half as well.
It was brilliant.
Yep.
It was well. Yeah, the commentators weren't sure who it was, but oops. But I rated him for chopped down. There was an incident in the 90s when, and it's one that people point to whenever this sort of stuff happens, when Newcastle were playing Manchester United at Old Trafford and Rob Lee was running through on goal. When United were up by a single goal, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer ran back and absolutely chopped them from behind and started walking before the card had even come out. I'm a dark arts man, and I think that if Auckland had have gone and equalised after that, the guy would be a hero.
Yeah.
So, with 6 or 7 minutes left, if you're 3-0 down, you just let him run through. But if you're 1-0 down and there's still time on the clock and you can prevent him from having a one-on-one, you chop him down. And I thought it was great. Take the red card, I don't mind it.
No, it was certainly one of the moments of the evening. I want to throw something back at you, Neil, and it was something that Tommy Dolman picked up on the broadcast, and there was statistics that suggested that both Perth and Auckland are two of the very, very low sides that it comes to having bulk possession of the football. Now, there seemed to be almost a plan to give Auckland the ball, and as you said, they were devoid of ideas when they had the ball.
Yeah, well, I think Glory have had 50% or more in one game possession-wise this season. The difference between Glory and Auckland is Auckland, generally speaking, don't have these coach killers. They don't have these blunders at the back. You actually have to work hard to score against Auckland. They've a good backline. They've got a very good goalkeeper, and it took a worldie of a finish for Glory to breach their defence in that game. They've only conceded 9 goals across the 11 games so far, and I think 3 of them were in the one game. They went the first 6 or 7 without conceding. So that's the difference. That
they
while
lost big to Western United.
Yeah, that's the one. While they are happy to relinquish possession, they're very disciplined and hard to break down. We're still seeing, even last night, that Glory can be played around quite easily. So it's more problematic for Glory to not have the ball, whereas Auckland seem to be happy to sit in their blocks and be patient and not be broken down and then counter. They didn't have success with it against Glory, but they will definitely have success against other teams and have done already. So, yeah, 2 teams that don't want the ball. I suppose. Interesting battle.
Another thing, Jackson, that was pretty evident there was the decision making from Glory seems to have improved, and it's, are we going to play this nice little triangles and build up play, or are we just going to get it to someone who can whack it long to tag it when he's got a centre half isolated or into those channels as well? It seems to be, as I said, just improved over the last couple of weeks, maybe minus that Sydney game.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes down to Pearman in particular. Because I had a look earlier before I came in here, just looking at his heat map and his touch map from the other night, and compared that to maybe like Bulgaria from a couple of weeks ago. And when Bulgaria was playing, this is when, I mean, this is not just down to one player, because the whole team has been playing better, but when Bulgaria was starting in that position, he was getting the ball kind of all over the place, whereas Hammond last night, the majority of his touches, he had like 40 or so. I think 30 or so of them were just outside of the box in that attacking third. So
but you have a look, Taggart's right on his, it's little flicks that I found that worked very, very well.
It looks more like a 4-4-2 now than it did with the other guys playing as 10s. You know, with Pearman, when they're pressing, he's a lot closer to Taggart than when Taggart previously was running like a headless chicken, turn around, beckoning people to come up and run with him. Pearman is there, and they've actually closed that gap between Taggart and the players behind. It actually looks a bit more consistent, and we noticed it on Saturday that they were more in hunting it in a pack rather than as individuals. And that's, while you don't have to press for 90 minutes, it's picking those moments where you go, and if one goes, 5 go, rather than just one going and then getting frustrated. And I think that's probably a subtle change. And that's going to come with its own problems, because you're playing games quite thick and fast. You're also playing guys who haven't had much senior minutes. We saw that with plenty of cramp in the last couple of games. And we did, and we'll get onto this Wanderers game, but we did say last night that why are they making the changes so late? The attacking substitution, the 86th minute or whatever it was, to bring on 2 attackers for guys who were clearly done quite a bit before that. So if you are going to run these guys into the ground, don't flog them till they're completely dead. Take them off and bring on these fresh legs.
Yeah, I was very perplexed by that as well, because it was pretty obvious that was what was happening. Because we had a good period in between like the 70th and 80th minute where we had good spells of the ball. We had quite a few corners. I think Lissalashki had it just wide, and Taggart had that shot on his left. Then after that Taggart shot, Western Sydney had quite a few chances on the break, and it was clear that the Glory had lost the legs, and they needed that fresh spark up top. And then when Faisal and Blair came on, it was like the 89th minute, and they had 5 or 6 minutes to make an impact, and you barely get a touch of the ball. So that was a bit worrying. But I think the reason he might have done that is because he looks at his starting team and he thinks that's probably the best. Keeping those players on the pitch is our best chance. So is that a worry if he's not confident in the subs playing that extra 5-10 minutes at the end, do you think?
Well, we did ask him after the game that if you're bringing in 5 or 6 players, does that mean 5 or 6 are going to go? And look, there was about a line of about 12 lads doing the running after the game of people that weren't involved. Mutual termination sprint. We don't have the grand final sprint here. We have the mutual termination sprint. But is that the case, that these guys that weren't trusted to come on last night, if they bring in 5 or 6 experienced players, do they go so far down the pecking order? Because there's nowhere for these guys to play. Well,
it was quite interesting to see some names that you'd normally see in suits on match day actually out there doing those shuttles.
There were some names and players that we hadn't seen for quite a while who were out there doing the running. So it's interesting to see. And as Rich said, no, we don't really expect many people to leave, because they've shipped out 6 so far. They brought in Merchla, so it'll be interesting to see how they balance the books and how they balance the squad now if they bring in, because these, again, as we mentioned earlier on, these 5 or 6 names that are being linked and have signed it would be expected to be first team players. They're not there to make up numbers, and because they don't need numbers, they got plenty of players. It's what happens, where do they fit in, and who then goes further down the pecking order. The guys that probably started the season, the likes of Lockie Barr wasn't in the squad last night, but Garia hasn't been seen for a while. Yes, he was on the bench, but he hasn't actually played. Kwan Go has been out of the team now. Faisal's barely been cited recently. If they bring in Patrick Wood, what does that mean to Blair? Does he go out of the squad altogether? There's no real MPL for them to play in at the moment. There's no youth league. There's nothing. There's no reserves team. So what happens to these guys with minutes? And these guys were signed as the future, and there was a point made on our Facebook earlier on that they're trusting the young guys, but they're bringing in senior players. So does this mean the young guys don't play anymore?
Well, it surely has to be a little bit of a mix, and we've seen what happens when it does go very well. And you wanted to bring up a little bit on particularly Will Freeney, but also Peterman. The Bib's been outstanding for me. I think he's been one of the absolute finds this year and probably a breakout season.
Well, I thought Will Freeney I was surprised that he started. I was also surprised that he started on the wing, because from what I knew, he was a 6'8" midfielder. And that's what Zrilic said afterwards, that he wasn't going to be a fullback. But what he did do was help them retain possession a lot more. And I thought he looked pretty comfortable. It was interesting that he was on all the set pieces as well. He was trusted with that. He was taking free kicks, corners. So they obviously feel he's got it's the whole cliche, a wand of a left foot. But I thought he was really good and fit right in, and really good relative to the fact that it was his first game, and he clearly wasn't fully match fit because he cramped and had to come off. But there was we saw a lot from him. We've seen a lot from Perriman. And it begs the question, is where were these guys in the first half of the season? That they probably should have been ahead of some of the others in terms of game time. So do you want these guys, like if someone like a Lockie Wales comes in and a couple of experienced Japanese imports, what happens to these guys? Do they lose any game time and minutes? Because now that they've got momentum, the best thing for them is to play week in, week out.
Well, and I guess, Jackson, the competition for spots. And my next question for you is, does anyone really know what that post-window 11 looks like?
No, I think we got to wait until we see who comes in. But just going back to the transfer talk, from what I understand, the 5 or 6 coming in would replace the 5 or 6 who have gone out already. Who we've seen, Kanga and Caicedo have gone, Bodden's gone, Amini, Muir, they've all left.
Yama, we feel.
Yeah.
Nothing. No, I haven't seen anything official from Yama.
No, he was out there running on the pitch last night, and signing autographs. Yeah, so the ones up in the air, Yama, Majeka Dumni, obviously.
Hamzawi?
Hamzawi, yeah.
Well, he's been back in and out last couple of weeks.
If they're signing 2 visa players, is it two visa players?
Yeah. Well, 2 Japanese imports are coming.
So 2 have gone and 2 coming in. Maybe they keep Hamzawi till the end of the year. I don't know, but anyway.
Yeah, interesting times.
Yeah, and I hope we do see more of the likes of Freeney and Pearman, because they've come in and just looked settled straight away, and we haven't really been able to say the same for the guys who were signed from New South Wales. Your Blairs, your Bugaris, your Faisals. They've all guys who they've shown glimpses, but when it's come to how they performed in the A-League, just hasn't quite stacked up. They were pretty good in the preseason in the Australia Cup, but we've seen Freeney looked pretty good last night, and Pearman in particular has been a standout, much better than any of the 10s that we've tried so far.
Let's have a quick look at the Perth Glory women, Jackson, because you did mention it as part of your good Caitlin Douglas score on the weekend. Ultimately, they're just struggling, even with some of these lower-ranked teams such as Sydney FC, who historically are very, very strong, not having the greatest season at the moment, but I guess just struggling to be able to get over some of these hills.
Yeah, it's not quite clicking at the moment. I did make the trip down to the Samco Football Centre. I know Neil's not going to be seen anytime soon.
Rather you than me, yep.
No, they played pretty well in the first half. They had the better of the possession, the chances, and then second half, Sydney changed the goalkeeper, which was a bit of a surprise. I mean, she did make the mistake, which led to the Douglas goal, but I mean, for a 19-year-old to be subbed out at halftime is a bold move by Juric. But I mean, Sydney were better in the second half, and Brenna Edwards, who was in goal, made a few saves and managed to keep it at 1-1. It's just
Kelly Brown's a big loss at the moment. I mean, Tanika Lala's come in and tried to do a job there. Caitlin Douglas came in, she scored, but didn't have too much support. And then, Ella Lincoln, I thought she was a little bit of a breath of fresh air for the last 10 minutes, but had a shot, but ultimately couldn't get the chocolates.
Yeah, Ella Lincoln was really good off the bench. I've not seen a lot of her. I know she was very good in the NPLWA and took out Golden Boot and Best Player, and it was good to see her in action because she did inject that bit of pace and spark at the end and got the fans up and excited. And I thought that was going to be Megan Windu was going to be like that, but yeah, the attack just hasn't really. They haven't found their groove just yet. And Kelly Brown's injury is a big blow because she was someone who was going to be like the leader of the front line with Holler and Wynn. I think that was ideally the front three that Stephen Peters would want to use, but see Douglas is now in as a stopgap while Brown's injured, and then you've got the young players like Lala and Lincoln to just ease into their first season. Then I guess you can fit Sarah O'Donoghue into that kind of mix as well.
Tough trip to Melbourne Victory. We'll get to those fixtures very, very shortly. It's been a whirlwind and it's been hard to keep up with all the fixtures, Jackson, but I think you're going to give us a little bit of a snapshot about the rest of the A-League men's.
Yeah, we'll go back to Friday, and it was good to see a team other than us concede 2 goals in stoppage time to Western United. Yeah, Victory in a tough spot at the moment. I had them quite high at the beginning of the season with Kisnorma, but since then they haven't won in their last 5, and it looked like they were going to get over the line at Amy Park, but then Bodic with the header, the corner, it was a good finish from him, and then Danzaki and Ibasuki linking up for the 4-3 win for Western United, who are they're going along quite nicely under Aloisi and finding a bit of a groove, and they're in and about the final spots as well. I think they're in 6 at the moment, equal 6 with like the likes of Sydney and MacArthur. So yeah, they're right in there. The race for those spots is really heating up, and they're doing well to stay in there because I thought they'd be down towards where us and Newcastle and Brisbane were going to be at the beginning of the season.
The other results from across the weekend, mate.
Adelaide going to Wellington and winning.
Yep.
More Wellington, just own goal and then the Oloyemi fumble.
They've wet the bed, Wellington, big time, haven't they?
Yeah, but fair credit to Adelaide. They're kind of going under the radar at the moment. They're just managing to get results each week without performing brilliantly. But all you need to do is get the 3 points, and they've been managing to do that more games than not. So it's been good for them.
Yep.
Melbourne City. They're playing like Man City. They found their groove now.
Old Man City.
Well, Vidmar's doing a great job considering the injury crisis they've got, and they've been flooding in these youngsters, and there's a whole host of them who've been playing well. Mehmeti, Rahmani, Polatides, Mazeo is the one who scored the goal. It was a good header from a small loc as well, and just compounds Brisbane's miserable season even more. They're still winless, and it's not looking like it's going to get better anytime soon. Sydney and Central Coast, again, Sydney were pretty... It was Siacis off the bench was the one who made the big impact. Scored 3 goals in 20 minutes just to back up Lolly's hat-trick from midweek. It's Sydney. They were always going to play well. And then MacArthur went down to Newcastle and got a win. And that's the type of game that you need to be winning if you're going to be in the conversation for finals. And got the points. Jermaine scored again. Drew scored again. He's been in good form. Possible Socceroos bolter for the future. And then we had the draw between Wellington and Sydney today, which didn't see the highlights of, but
I watched it. Enjoyed it. It was in it for a 0 goal. I credit where it's due to Sean Evans, the referee, because he gave a penalty, which I can see in real time why it was. There was definitely contact on the player, but on replay, there was a touch on the ball first, and it was a good tackle, and they went to VAR, and it was overturned, and it's exactly what the system is there for. It was correct, and nobody complained afterwards. Sydney, after the game, Ryan Grant thinks just said, "Yeah, it looked like he got a touch on the ball, but we weren't going to say anything if we got a penalty for it." Brilliant, but I thought that was pretty good, and I also enjoyed that Leo Senna was booked for diving as well.
We don't see enough of that.
Evans got a spot on. He went looking for a penalty, threw himself over a leg very, very easily, and got up. Incensed that he was booked for it, but it was the right decision. So yeah, I thought it was good, and it was a bit of an end-to-end game, a bit scrappy, wet conditions, but it was good. And I think there's been quite a few good games lately, and the league at the moment, you've got the top 6 separated by 3 points. There's a proper title race there, and I know that we put so much emphasis on finals and toilet seat and everything else, but first past the post. it's hotting up quite nicely. And as Jackson already said, Melbourne City with the kids showing exactly how it can be done, and that's a really good story to watch. And I know it's the City Football Group and all of that. It's hardly an underdog tale, is it? But given the resources that they should have available to them, but they are playing, whether it's by design or not, they're playing a lot of kids who are getting plenty of minutes, and a lot of those kids have come through that academy. So, you can talk about pumping money into buying players, but what you're seeing with City at the moment is how many of the players that, now that they're 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the journey of having an academy and blooding players, that those guys are now 17, 18, 19, have been with the club for a long time, and it feels like every few weeks there's a new one coming through, and they're getting now first team football. So that's a good thing for just the development of players here. And you go back to the transfers and whatnot earlier on. If we're going to have a transfer system in Australia, we need more money to be able to buy players off other clubs. Well, if it means that we have to be more of a sell, like the Mariners were for years, more of a selling competition where we get 800,000 for a player, and then we put that into 2 or 3 players that we buy from other clubs, or we put that into our academy. That's what we want to be over the next few years.
It's about growing the economy and everything else. But I certainly agree with you. I think that has to be the model going forward. Boys, we're starting to run a little bit thin on time. We might take a little bit of a break, and we'll look forward to the weekend. You're on the Far Post Perth podcast.
What a run! This could be the one! It's in! That's what it's all about! And when it comes to sports gear that helps you perform your best, ID Athletic has the winning formula. From grassroots clubs to elite athletes, ID Athletic provides high-quality sporting apparel, screen printing, embroidery, and made-to-order promotional products. Proud sponsors of the Far Post Perth and passionate supporters of WA community sport. Visit ID Athletic at 84 Howe Street, Osborne Park, or online at idathletic.com. ID Athletic. Build your identity.
Tired of the same old cookie cutter home designs? Dreaming of a space that truly reflects you? Then it's time to talk to the team at Trio Homes. Whether you're looking to build your dream home, redesign your current space, or simply renovate, Trio Homes is committed to unique designs, local personalised service, and quality workmanship. And with former Perth Glory star Dino Julbich at the helm, you'll know you're getting passion and dedication built into every project. Discover the difference with Trio Homes. Visit triohomes.com.au.
Final part of the Far Post Perth podcast. Blaine Treadgold alongside Jackson Bassett and Neil Sherwin. Boys, as I said, these I've been quite difficult to be able to keep up with what rounds what and everything else, and they're all overlapping each other at the moment. But I'm just going to give you these fixtures. Friday night, we'll get some tips from you for Western United against Newcastle, Jackson.
I'll back in Western United for that one.
Neil?
Yeah, the Ibasuki show rolls on. He's just brilliant. He's a perfect number 9 for the league, and is just great at them right now. I'm still shocked that Adelaide let him go. Not that they'll be complaining; they're sitting second on the ladder. But when he was let go and they wouldn't give him a contract, I was surprised. But I'm glad he stayed in the league. A
wonderful little moment. I don't know if you saw on the video of him spending some time with his 2 little girls playing on the pitch after that win. So. Some outstanding scenes there. Saturday, Western Sydney against Central Coast, Jackson.
This is a game that Western Sydney should be winning, but
they have to.
I've got a feeling
this is a must-win for them.
I've got a feeling the Mariners will get something from it, so I think maybe like a one-all draw.
I'll go for Western Sydney. Although listen to Alan Stadgis last night. Like, it is tricky for them. They flew on the red-eye home last night, straight after the game, and be conscious of the fact that they have to play Perth Tuesday and then at home Friday. It's a tough one.
Yep. I'm going to go with Western Sydney. I think they can pull it off. Central Coast not much chop at the moment. Auckland against Melbourne City.
I think the kids go to New Zealand and get the job done. Yeah, Melbourne City to get
Auckland to lose 2 straight.
Yeah. I think Melbourne City have been that good, and Auckland are in a bit of a rough patch at the moment.
Is this their downfall, Neil?
I'm going to go a draw, but I would lean towards City if I had to pick one. I think Sakai is a big out for Auckland after he got that
8 days.
Ball in the face. It was
Falcon.
That
Yeah.
was an absolute
He was out.
screamer of a shot. And
He was out before the hit the ground. You could see he went the old floppy. Yeah. Sydney against Brisbane.
This will be a question of how many. And I will say 5. 5-0.
Brisbane are a disgrace from top to bottom at the moment. They're absolute shambles, and it's. I know Besser Barisha had a big rant about it the other day about the standards that Brisbane Roar used to stand for as a club and what they used to bring to the league and how that's all being undone, and it is quite sad because it's the one club. It's not a saturated area for A-League teams. It's Brisbane or nothing pretty much, and it's similar to ourselves here. So I do have sympathy with the Roar supporters that there's no light at the end of the tunnel for them at the moment.
I'm wondering which is the side who sweeps in for JSA. Adelaide against Melbourne Victory. This is the game of the round. It will be on free-to-air television. The original rivalry, Jackson, as they call it, Adelaide against Melbourne Victory.
And it's going to deliver a high-scoring draw, 3-3.
3-3.
I think we're due for a good clash.
Melbourne to go again. I think this might be the game that Melbourne turn it around. I think they get pumped for this and they turn it around against Adelaide.
Nah, Adelaide are too good at the moment.
You think?
Yeah, I think they're going to win quite comfortably. Victory just haven't shown anything. They're no Jason Gary anymore either.
No, well, that's true.
It's a big loss for them, both as a leader and obviously as an important cog at the back. I think you take him out of a team that's already struggling. Yeah, it's problematic.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I'll change that.
You've locked it in.
Yeah, no, you've probably convinced me there. MacArthur against Wellington.
MacArthur. Wellington will find it hard to back up after playing today as well.
I think MacArthur. Wellington just aren't really. I know Barbarouses has scored goals, but them as a team, they've only scored 13 goals, and MacArthur have scored more than double that. So I think MacArthur will at home, will score goals, and Wellington won't. A-League women's fixtures across the weekend, or just as far as the A-League men's go, of course, Perth Glory with no game this weekend due to the bye. A-League women's fixtures, Western United against Melbourne City on the Friday. On the Saturday will be Brisbane against Melbourne Victory. Saturday, Melbourne... I've messed that up, haven't I? Perth are playing Melbourne Victory. I've messed that up. Anyway, Wellington against Newcastle on the Sunday, Sydney against Central Coast, and Brisbane against Adelaide. So, I have made a bit of a hash of that. Jackson, any talking points from the Women's League this week?
Well, I think it's going to be a tough game for Glory, but I think we should go in with confidence, given that in the reverse fixture, we were close to getting a point out of it, but then conceded in the 92nd minute, just a hopeful long shot. Then we got to back it up on Tuesday against Western United, who haven't been great defensively. So I think these are two games that we should be looking to get that first away win on the board. I think we're kind of falling back a bit from the top six, and I think these are some games that we need to get some points from and turn it around, because we've got Brisbane at home on Australia Day, and that's a very tough fixture because the Roar have been going very well this season. All right, bit of Invasion Day football, perfect stuff. Neil, bold predictions? Bold prediction: Glory men will not lose this week. Captain Obvious. Because Glory do Glory things, I'm going to say that... Who's going to be the glorious team this week? Well, no, what I think will happen is somewhere along the line, an I will not be dotted or a T will not be crossed correctly, and one of the incoming signings falls through. Remember Dean Heffernan and the contract written in Chinese controversy that time, and there was null and voids because they're not reading clauses, and there'll be something. There will just be something. Right. We'll find a way to glory it. Keep a look out for it. Jackson, bold prediction? I'll be very bold and say we'll get linked to a big name. That the Glory will get linked to a big name player in the next week or two. All right. Whether that mean big define big. Are we talking similar? Are we talking Daniel Sturridge and William Gallas areas, or similar to Matter and Costa? I think like that kind of Tas level. Mordekudus is a big name. It's quite long. It's a long name. It's a big name. Yeah. I'm just having a bit of a look at these fixtures again. I'm just going to throw it out there that all home teams get a win. So I think it's possible. I think it's very, very possible. See what that's paying. Yeah, have a look. Have a bit of a go at that. Bet responsibly. Big thank you to you, Jackson Bassett. Big thank you, Neil Sherwin. Big thank you, as always, to ID Athletic and Trio Homes. Don't forget
to tell all your friends about the podcast. Give us a like, give us a review, follow us on social media and all that kind of stuff. We'll be back next week. Not too much glory to talk about, of course, with the bye, but we might even have a special guest next week. So look forward to everyone's company then. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Far Post Perth podcast.